Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard. This is Joey Kramer, and I'm going to be your host today on my show, Overcoming the Stories We Tell, here on the Mental Health Warriors Network. I'm so excited to be back. It's been a couple weeks since my last show, and I'm looking forward to today's show. I've been on vacation last week with my family, so much needed little time away from work, time away from recording shows, and ready to get back kind of going with everything. So happy to be here today. And I've got a great topic for everybody. I wanted to discuss and get everybody's feedback and really, thoughts on, hey, what's going on, Adam? I knew you'd be here as always. But yeah, I wanted to get everybody's thoughts on the role that emotions play in our mental health and how powerful our emotions are. They're actually the most powerful thing controlling our mental health and our mindset. Whether we know it or not, subconsciously, our emotions are controlling every aspect of our lives, and learning how to stay in a steady emotional state and not get elevated one way or another. That's really the goal and what we're all trying to accomplish here. I did get a new haircut, Adam. I do my own hair, so if you ever see it getting long, it's because I've just been too lazy to get the clippers out and get it cut. But got back from vacation on Sunday, and I felt it was time to. It's so damn hot here where we're at, and I know you guys are over in the UK are getting just pummeled as well. So, it's so dang hot here that I had to shed some unneeded weight and hair that was getting a little long. I didn't realize it when I pulled it down. It was literally down to about my eye level. It's like, holy hell, how did it get that long? So, but yeah, let's get started today. And we'll have some people join in, I'm sure, and look forward to some questions and any takeaways from today's show. Any feedback would be great. But today's show, like I said, I want to talk about the role that emotions play in our mental health. And, I truly and honestly believe, as someone who's suffered from mental health issues, Adam's already asking a question. All that. We'll dive into the show as we get going here, but let's see what Adam has to say. My first question when it comes to communicating with our mindset, for those that don't know, what's the difference between the conscious and subconscious mind, and how does it impact us? Well, that's a great question. The subconscious mind, Adam, is literally controlling 95 to 98% of everything we create, everything we do, everything we think consciously is stemming from our subconscious mind, and all that programming that's been entered into it that we've collected over a lifetime of experiences. And those experiences, it's exactly what I was going to go into today. The experiences we have throughout our life, they either turn out to be a really positive experience or they turn out to be a negative experience. And it's the role of the emotions that we attach to those experiences to create memories. It's the role of those emotions that we attach to them that create our idea of reality and how we live in the present moment. And for me, I've suffered from mental illness the majority of my life, and overcoming those stories, overcoming the thoughts that I have consciously and subconsciously it's still a continuous battle. I find that when I go on vacation, like I just did, now coming back, it's hard to get back into the right mindset sometimes when you're away from your routine, when you're away from those habits. And the habits and the routines, those are really what set us up for success day in and day out. And if we break those habits, we break those routines, it kind of throws our whole internal processing off to where we have to get back into those habits, back into those routines before we start to really feel normal again. I've been struggling all week long with getting back into those routines. And whenever I get out of those routines, a lot of self-doubt, a lot of stress, emotional stress comes into play there, because you may be doing something right over and over and over for months on end. And when you break those habits, when you break that routine, then it causes you to rethink, causes you to reevaluate everything. And I definitely am experiencing that this week, because it's part of how our minds work. It's part of how our subconscious programming has been designed to operate. And it came from a purely biological survival mechanism in the beginning. In the beginning of all of it, come on, Joey, you didn't overcome your story, as your story is still being told, as you're still here, because I say we all die, but our stories live on. You're right. We're all overcoming our stories day in and day out. It's a never ending story, Adam. It's a never ending, always evolving story. And we create it into any which story in any which direction we want. But the role of the emotions, those are what are controlling how we perceive the world. I believe, as I was saying, I believe that the mental illness profession has been doing, the majority of the professionals out there, they've been doing it wrong for so many years. They've been doing a disservice to all of us out there that suffer from mental illness, because they're doing it wrong in the fact that they're using old, outdated therapies and medications. Everybody they just want to put a Band-Aid on the problem of mental illness. They want to make you go to and encourage you to go to therapy every week for years and years and years, and never really get to the bottom of what's going on. They never really get to the primary cause of the sadness. Really, that's what it is. The sadness we feel inside, the self-doubt we have within ourselves, the guilt, the shame. Sure, it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to have therapy sessions. I fully support that. But when done the way it's been done, I should say, has been completely wrong. I've attended so many seminars and worked with different experts in the field of NLP, in the field of mental illness, and I can honestly say that you can heal yourself. You can overcome whatever story, whatever issue you're having in your life that's causing the depression, causing the sadness. You can literally overcome it in a matter of an hour or two, and it can be completely erased and rewritten within you. And we've been sold this bill of goods. We've been sold this lie that we have to go to therapy each and every week. We have to get on these medications. And once we get on one medication, it's hard to get off of it, because the side effects of coming off of any medication is brutal. It kicks most everybody's ass. And so it's hard to come down and come off of it. But they've continued over the years, and I'm not calling out any mental health professionals necessarily out there, but at the end of the day, you've got to ask yourself if there are proven solutions that we can rewrite and we can overcome these issues that we have with depression, with the stories we tell. If it's been shown that it can happen in a matter of 1 to 2 hours through the proper use of techniques, through properly identifying the problem and reprogramming it within us, then the therapy and the drugs, they're not necessary anymore. They're a Band-Aid, like I said. And the idea is we have to get to the core root of the problems. At the end of the day, we're all suffering from sadness of some sort. Like I said, we have sadness, we have regret, we have depression from shame, from guilt, from all these different avenues of our lives, from these experiences we've had. And what do these experiences do? They cause us to have an emotional reaction. Any experience out there that we go through in life, any moment of our life, we have the ability to either perceive it as positive or we perceive it as negative. It either hurt us or it helps us. And far too many of us, we perceive the events that happen to us from a victim mentality. We perceive the events that happen to us as something bad. Why did this happen to me? I should have done this differently. It gets into the whole idea of attempting to rewrite your past, but we're not taught how to do that. We're not taught how to reprogram these memories within us. So what happens time and time again, we have a bad situation or the perception of a bad situation happen to us, and we feel an emotional connection. We get elevated, we get triggered, we get upset. There is no emotion for anger. That's just a suppression of sadness that we're feeling, and we get frustrated because we feel that sadness, and we have to let it out somehow. We have to explode somehow with that idea of sadness. That's what causes anger. So at the end of the day, we're either happy or we're sad about the outcome of an experience we had. Now, the way we feel about it, otherwise known as our emotions, that's what we attach to the actual memory of what happened. I could see an experience and create an entirely separate memory of that experience based on how I felt about it. Whereas somebody else can have the same exact experience, but because of the way their internal programming works, they feel a different way about that experience, and they program it deep down in your subconscious mind. And when that programming happens, it attaches to that memory. We attach these experiences through emotions into our database, our memory storage, processing unit. And when triggers happen, when things happen in our lives, they trigger us into re-experiencing that emotion once again, over and over again. And this is all related to a biological process within us. The different endorphins, the different hormones that are present in our body when we feel stress, when we feel sadness, when we feel guilt, shame, anger, all of the gamut of what we would know as and call depression. When we feel those emotions and we experience something that triggers those emotions, it sets us down a path once again of being depressed, of feeling that all over again, because those endorphins and those hormones, they get released within us. So what if instead of going to therapy week after week, year after year, or suppressing these emotions with drugs, with pharmaceuticals, antidepressants, things of that nature, what if we faced those emotions head on? It's the real problem that we have, I think, out there, is we've been told emotions are bad. We've been told feeling is bad. It's better to numb yourself. Hell, we don't have a worldwide epidemic of alcoholism, and now, drugs, harder drugs like heroin, meth, all these different drugs out there. We don't have a worldwide epidemic with all of this stuff because, we're happy. We're all sad in one way or another, and we're all trying to find that escape from feeling those emotions. And those emotions are literally the key to unlocking this mystery, or so-called mystery, of mental illness. We have to learn how to experience those emotions. We have to learn how to identify what the emotion is and see what the root cause of that emotion is. Once we can start to understand that, once we can start to identify what those emotions are and what we're feeling in that moment, it's okay to feel whatever you want to feel in that moment, because that's what's attached to the memory. That's what's being triggered within you. So you have to identify what the hell this emotion means. And for many people, that's the hardest part. It's scary. It's scary to dive into our emotions, because a lot of us, I think, feel that we're not in control of our emotions, which is pretty evident. Look at society. We've got people exploding on one another, people attacking each other, people doing some of the most hateful things in the world we would never have imagined doing to another person, but we're doing it now in society because we have been told emotions are bad, push them down, suppress them. And what the hell's going to happen? It's like a tea kettle, coffee pot. When it reaches a boiling point, it explodes. It lets off the bell, the whistle. And that's what's happening in society. We've been told, squash those emotions. Don't feel them. Feeling is bad. That's bullshit. Feeling is everything. Feeling is our connection to this 3D world. Our feelings are what connect us to one another. Feelings of love, feelings of joy, feelings of happiness. These are all great fundamental emotions. But at the same time, feelings of sadness, feelings of, depression, they're not a bad thing when we recognize them for what they are. And they're trying to awaken us. They're trying to teach us something. They're trying to say, hey, something inside you is not programmed properly. Let's rewrite that programming. Let's go within and figure out what the root cause of my sadness is. I've got plenty of root causes. I was abused, sexually growing up. Still working through that. That'll be a lifetime of working through. I was abandoned at birth. That I overcame. That one I rewrote that story easy enough. And it no longer has an effect on me. It no longer triggers me into that feeling of sadness, feeling of unworthiness, of regret, of guilt. There's so many positives that we get to experience when we recognize our feelings, when we recognize our emotions. So let's see, we got a couple comments here, and then I'll keep going on and dive into a little bit deeper on how this works and how we reprogram our way of thinking in order to cure ourselves. The only one that's going to save you is you, regardless of the amount of therapy you're told to get, the amount of drugs they put you on. They're all just Band-Aids, and we have to learn the techniques. We have to learn how to heal ourselves, because once you do that, you become unstoppable. You become superhuman in a sense, because nothing can ever affect you again. When you remove those negative feelings, first, when you recognize that you're having a negative feeling, let's identify it and then see where it came from. Understand why you feel that way. Understand the story that you've told yourself about why you're feeling this way. And then we reprogram it. And I'll get into that in the next part of the show here. So let's see. We've got Jeffrey Berger tuning in. Let's see. Thanks. We will watch the replay. Oh, okay. We got Jeffrey will watch the replay. He's at a conference in Vegas. What conference, I wonder? I hope you're learning a lot. Conferences can be one of the most powerful triggers, most powerful transformative things we can do. Getting in a big room, an auditorium full of a ton of like-minded people trying to create the same thing, trying to understand the same thing. What does it say in the Bible? Whenever two or more, or is it whenever three or more are gathered? That's when the power within us is elevated. That's when we have the power to harness that energy from one another. So conferences, heck yeah, Jeffrey, keep going, keep doing them, keep growing. So let's see. We got somebody commented, this is why having the tools to program your mindset to learn good resilience would be awesome instead of being trapped in adversity through trauma. That was Adam, it looks like. Depressed means deep rest and also means I pressed on. Yes, it does. Let's see, let's go back to this one. And learning good resilience. Yes, that is something that's not taught out there. We're taught to fix our depression. One, we're taught that depression is bad. We have to get rid of that bullshit stigma. Depression is not bad. It's the way we handle, it's the way we're taught to handle depression that is the problem. Depression is a total, normal, 100% function of our lives. We're not always going to feel happy. It's impossible to always feel happy, because the external world is happening all around us. And there's certain aspects of the external world we cannot control, regardless of how hard we want to try and control them. But at the end of the day, the only one that can control those reactions to the triggers, to the outside world, is you, is going within yourself again and understanding, I'm feeling this way. I'm having a depressed, a sad, an anxious, and a guilty emotion, any one of the gamuts. I'm feeling that. Why am I feeling that? It's typically not because of what's actually happening right now, what the moment you're in, or what you just experienced. 99% of the time is not the reason you are depressed. It's not the reason you're feeling this sadness. It's the regret. It's the memories that are stored within our minds. And those memories create those biochemical reactions which cause emotions in our body. They cause us to feel a certain way. And again, like I said, the feeling is what's important. Neville Goddard talks about, if you guys aren't familiar with Neville Goddard, he was an amazing mystic, spiritual guide, so many things, an author. He was real prominent around the 60s and 70s here in the United States. And he wrote one of his most famous books was called The Feeling is the Secret. And he explains the role of our feelings, of our emotions, and how they are creating our reality. The feeling is the secret means that we're not supposed to ignore our feelings. We're not supposed to look elsewhere or hide the feelings as they come in. We're supposed to experience the feelings, number one, so that we're experiencing all of life. But what he teaches is how you create the desired reality. How do you overcome depression? How do you get anything in this world? You have to take action, and you have to have a clear vision. You have to be able to see what it is you want so badly. If you no longer want to be sad, you have to feel and see and believe that you can feel good. You have to go back to that moment. Doesn't matter what moment it was. This kind of gets into what I was going to talk about here in the second half of the show of reprogramming our minds. We have to go back into our minds and take that moment, take that saddened feeling, that sad state that we're in, and we have to find and remember a moment of pure bliss, a moment of joy, a moment of love. For me, I always go back to the moment that both of my children were born. My oldest son, who's 14 now, I got to deliver him. And I literally got to hold him and birth him as he came out. And I think to myself every time I remember back, and I smile every time I think of it. But he came out, and I thought, one, how amazing this was. Like, oh my God. And at the same time, I'm like, holy shit, he looks like a little gray alien. I'm like, this is possibly the most disgusting, weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. But it was the most beautiful moment I'd ever experienced in my life at the same time. And when he came out and I held him in my hands, he was a fat baby. He was like 10 pounds, 8 ounces, or 10 pounds, 12 ounces, huge baby. When he came out in my hands, it was a new beginning for me. And the same with my youngest, who's 12 now. He was born, and right when he was born, he had some congestion in his lungs and everything. So they had to take him over and put him into a little tray where they were shoving crap down his, suction devices down his throat. And he was screaming and crying, and he was so terrified. He didn't know what happened. He just came from this warm, soft, dark place inside his mom. And then boom, he gets shot out into the world. And now he's got alien looking creatures all sitting here shoving shit down his throat, uh, you know, poking and prodding him. And he's crying and screaming. And all I could do was stand over next to him and took my finger, and he held my hand and squeezed my hand with his tiny, or squeezed my finger with his tiny little hand, screaming. And I just sung to him. I held him. I held his little hand. He held my finger. And I just sung to him the same way I sung to him in the womb when he was with his mom. And those, for instance, those are the two moments I go back to when I'm wanting to generate a feeling of joy, of happiness, of love. When I want to feel that specific kind of love, I go back to that moment and I re-envision that, and I feel that emotion of those moments. I feel within my whole body and my heart that moment. And when I start to feel in that way, when I have those emotions running through my entire body at that exact moment, that is when you take that negative situation that you're trying to rewrite. You take that moment, that sad, depressed state that you're feeling, and you attach that moment of joy, that moment of love. You reattach it to the sadness that you're having, and you start to reimagine the sadness in a different way. You start to reimagine it and attach that sadness with the happiness, with the joy. It doesn't happen instantly. This takes work, this takes practice. But over time, what begins to happen is we stop connecting the sadness, we stop connecting those emotions of sadness with that experience, and we start to rewrite that experience. We start to rewrite those triggers. So when we feel those triggers, we start to feel that moment of joy, that moment of love, that moment of happiness. And instead of getting upset and getting emotional and heading down a negative path every time those triggers occur, we start to feel joy, happiness, love every time those triggers are experienced, every time that perception of bullshit comes up in our world. We no longer see it with stress. We no longer see it with guilt. We no longer see it with shame. We start to feel it through our emotions. We start to reprogram that memory into a positive, loving state. And when we do that, we can correct the sadness. We can correct the depression. I used to get into depressions that would last, months, 3-5 months. I would get depressed and I would stay in that state over and over, day after day. I'd beat myself up over it. I felt like it felt good. I think a lot of people that suffer from depression, I think we feel like it feels good to be that victim, to feel that pain. And that's bullshit. None of that feels good. It's the awareness that it's happening is what needs to happen. It's what needs to first be done. We first have to be aware that we're feeling this way, and then we rewrite it. And then we start to practice these healthy behaviors, these reprogramming techniques, like I just talked about. And we start to feel and put ourselves in that state of love, that state of joy, that state of happiness. And we attach those emotions, those feelings to that trigger. And before you know it, your spouts, your bouts of depression that used to last 3 months, 5 months, they're lasting 1 month, 2 months, and then they're lasting 1 week, 2 weeks, and then they're lasting a matter of a few days. Recognize it, correct it, push through it, knowing that it's only a temporary emotion and it's not really your fault you're feeling that emotion. It's your subconscious programming that is causing you to feel the way you're feeling. So we reprogram that subconscious mind to feel the love and the joy. All of a sudden, that depression, it's gone in a matter of hours. Some people can do it in a matter of minutes. It's like I said, Not everybody, nobody out there can feel happy all the time, 24 hours a day. You're going to be triggered. Your subconscious mind is going to try and basically trick you into feeling the way that it wants you to feel. You're the one in control here. You're the one that has the power to rewrite it. You're the one that can say no more. I'm not allowing this feeling of sadness. I'm not allowing that story to replay itself in my mind, consciously or subconsciously. I am taking control of my mind, and I am going to see the beauty in why I feel this way. That's another big aspect of this. We have to understand that the emotions we feel, the things that trigger us, the events that happen to us, the experiences we have, they're there for us to grow. They're there for us to learn. They're there for us to evolve from. And as long as we stay in this stuck place, this feeling of victimhood, this sad state, we're going to, one, continue to repeat this trigger. We're going to continue to repeat this cycle over and over and over again, because your body, the universe, everything is trying to teach you some sort of a lesson in this moment. That's why it's uncomfortable. You have to become uncomfortable to change. You have to become uncomfortable to grow. And in order to grow, in order to feel, in order to evolve, we have to first become uncomfortable. And for most of us, that's depression, that's sadness, that's fear, that's judgment, that's guilt, that's shame. But it's there to teach us something. What if we can learn a lesson from that shameful experience that we always dwell back on over and over and over again? We're always remembering that moment we did something that we perceive as so terrible. How could anybody love us after what we did? It's the story we're telling ourselves. It's the story you're making yourself believe. That story was put there for a reason. That story was created in order to cause this feeling of uncomfortableness, this feeling of uneasiness. Because how else is it going to get your ass up off the couch, in a sense? How is it going to get you on your feet, moving towards the correct direction, if you don't feel uncomfortable, if you don't feel that pain, that sadness from this perceived experience, this perceived story you've told yourself? The human mind's so fascinating, and the way it works to better us and to evolve us is truly remarkable. I mean, it's almost impossible to really understand. But at the end of the day, it is there to help us grow and help us and push us into desiring to change. If we don't change and we stay put right here, life's going to be miserable. Life's going to be perceived as sad, and that you are a victim because things aren't going your way. Things aren't happening the way you envisioned them and believed them to happen. Well, you can change that. You are the one and only person in charge of changing that. And it starts in here with the stories we tell. So let's take a look at some more comments. I know we've got a few people here. We got Andrea Evans. Emotions arise to leave. Yes, we have emotions come up. We feel them. They are only temporary. And the choice of how you feel, is it a good emotion? Is it a bad emotion? It's all your choice. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that. A lot of people, like I said, a lot of people want to play the victim role and blame others. At the end of the day, again, there's only you creating this. So is it tough love to say that you're the one creating your depression? No. It's not tough love. It's reality. It is factually proven. It is scientifically proven. It is biochemical. It is metaphysical. You are creating the reality that you are desiring to live in. And it comes down to, why are you creating that reality? What are you there to learn from? Why is it happening to you? That's where the work starts. That's where the real lessons are learned at, is diving into the why. I had a mentor a few years back, and he said that I ask the question why too often. He said, why is the worst question to ask? And I disagreed with him all the time. And I still, to this day, completely and totally disagree with that. He said, oh, he in a sense says we should be robots, emotionless robots, never questioning why, just doing what we want to do and the way we want to do it. Okay. In a sense, yeah, doing what you want to do and the way you want to do it, that's everybody's freedom. That's what we, I guess, strive to do, to be free to live our lives the way we choose. But for everybody that has trauma, which FYI, that's everybody. Everybody has had trauma. Everybody has experienced trauma, whether it's been blatant and done upon you. Like I had sexual abuse. I had a bad accident. I was assaulted. Whatever happened, most of us have had some sort of a trauma. But everybody out there that says, nope, my life was perfect, I never had any trauma, I had a perfect childhood, bullshit. And the reason why is we have all been lied to. Every single person on the face of this earth has been lied to. We have all been psychologically traumatized through the lies that we've been told, be it education, be it medical industry, be it the media, politicians, you name it, religions are one of the biggest. We've all been psychologically traumatized in what we've been taught to believe is true. And until we start to realize that we all suffer from some sort of a trauma in our lives, doesn't matter how big or small, we've all suffered from trauma. Until we recognize it and realize it, we can't truly begin to create the joy, the happiness, the love that we desire to live in. We're always going to keep searching for more. And it goes back to what I was saying about that question of why. Why do things happen? Unless we understand why things happen, we can't fix the problems. We can't find a solution. We can't reprogram our subconscious mind to do what we want it to do if we don't understand why it's happening in the first place. So going back to our emotions, why am I feeling this way? Not because somebody hurt me yesterday, not because something external happened to you today, last week, last month. Those aren't the causes of our depression. The causes of our depression are a lifetime of trauma. And for most of us, they are moments in time that we've attached meaning to as small children, even in the womb. If you didn't know, science has proven now that what happens to your mother when you are in the womb, you experience through biochemical hormones, endorphins. If she's stressed out in the womb while you're in the womb, 100%, you're feeling that, you're absorbing that into your bloodstream, into your body, and it's programming into your subconscious mind. Same with joy, same with stress, same with fear. If your mom, for instance, went through a horrible relationship and was abused while she was pregnant with you, you are being biologically programmed in the womb to then have trauma. You don't ever know that you had that trauma. How could you? You weren't even born yet. You were in her womb. But the fact is, and science has proven, that you're absorbing that trauma, those endorphins, into your body, which create then the emotions, the emotional trigger, the emotional reaction that we feel day in and day out to external circumstances. How could you know the cause of why you react this way, why you feel depressed, why you feel sad about something happening to you, if it was caused quite literally before you were even born, and it was programmed into your biological DNA. It's these sorts of questions that we have to ask the why on. Why do I feel sad when this happens? Why do I get angry when this happens? Why? It's important. It's probably the most important question, because we can't get to the root cause unless we understand why. So let's see here. What does it say? When we're triggered, don't turn it into a mistake. See a trigger as an opportunity to work on yourself, as self-care is self-love and will improve your self-identity. Yes, exactly. Everything is happening for us in our best interest, whether we want to believe it or not. God only creates from love. God creates darkness because he creates everything. God has created the darkness. God has created the external triggers that are 100% required for you to grow, for you to evolve, and for you to learn to love more. How can we learn to love more if we don't ask why this is happening to us in the first place? Why did we attach that emotion to this trigger? Because it is an opportunity for us to grow. It's an opportunity for us to understand a new sense of love, a new sense of joy, a new sense of happiness. That's what life's about. Experiencing all of it. I often say, embrace the chaos. The chaos is life. The chaos is the journey. And everything that happens in this journey of life is happening to us, for us, in order for us to grow. When we get over this victim mentality and realize how beautiful the universe is, how amazing this life we've been given is, and show gratitude for it, the world begins to change before your eyes. That sadness that once existed slowly dissipates. It slowly disappears until there is no more sadness. There's only the recognition and the awareness that you're feeling a certain emotion. I don't think we can ever eliminate the emotions, because that's part of our three-dimensional, that's part of our physical existence. So we've got to just become aware. That's another thing Neville Goddard preached about and wrote about, awareness, the power of awareness. He has a whole book devoted to the power of awareness and becoming aware when we get emotional, recognizing the emotions, that they're not you. The emotions are an attachment to an experience, to a past memory. That past memory has either caused you pain or caused you joy. And when that trigger happens, it evokes a memory. That memory evokes a biochemical reaction within your body that gives you a feeling of happiness, of joy, of anger, of sadness. It has it's not right or wrong there. And that's something we have to come to the realization of. Feeling happy, feeling sad, none of them are right nor wrong. They are simply states of being. And when we recognize them, when we become aware that they are simply a state of being, we can begin to choose to be in a happy, positive state more times than being in a negative, saddened state. It's all up to us. It's all our own choice. Let's see here. So when you express emotions, it shows that you're human and shows vulnerability. And vulnerability shows strength. Yes, I often say vulnerability is our superpower. It's in the awareness. It's in the ability to be vulnerable, to talk with you guys today, to talk with people around the world on my podcast. I've got to be vulnerable, but I can't connect with you. I can't give the love that I want to give unless I'm vulnerable. I can't be up here acting like a robot, just telling you how it should be, telling you how I think the world should work. No, I have to experience these things for myself. I have to experience the sadness. I have to experience the pain, but I don't live in the pain. I don't dwell on the pain. I don't dwell on the sadness. I ask that question of why is this happening? Why am I feeling this way? How can I reprogram it into positive, into light, into love, into happiness and joy? So vulnerability is a superpower, and we all have that ability. We've just been told that it's not safe to be vulnerable. It's not safe to show emotions, that emotions are weakness. That is such a lie that we've been told. Emotions are our superpowers. They give us access to our superpowers. Let's see, who do we got here? Robert Booker. Welcome to the show, my friend. He says, let's see what he says here. I see it as an advantage for the broader perspective it provides. As long as I can keep it off center stage, things work out all right. Absolutely right, Robert. Emotions are going to come up. They have to. If you're not emotional, you're dead. You're no longer breathing. You're no longer walking this earth in a physical state, because we have to feel emotions. We have to feel. That's part of this experience. It's part of this journey. So as long as you can keep the emotions, even the good emotions, as long as you can keep them from being the center stage, the main actor in your play, in your movie that you're writing, if you can look at your emotions from a 20,000 foot view and look down on them, you would see why they're happening. You would see, it goes back to, I think, a lot of what I talk about and what I teach from, and how I rewrote my biological DNA, is it happened from understanding true compassion, true forgiveness, and true love for all three of those, for everyone else, but most importantly for yourself. And what this means here, Robert, what you're saying, keeping it off center stage, seeing things from a 20,000 foot view, looking down, we can have compassion on ourselves because we can see the whole play unfolding. We can see why things are happening and the way it needs to happen for us. So many of us need to awaken to our true identity, to our true purpose, to our true self. But we can't do that when we're living it a lie, when we're allowing these emotions to continually be the lead actor. You are the lead actor. Each and every one of you is your own lead actor in your show. And you're also all of the supporting actors. You're also all of the players, all of the extras. You are the background set. You are the instigator and the provocateur. You are the one that resolves it. You are everything in your own movie. And when you no longer allow emotions, especially the negative emotions, the feeling of depression, of sadness, of regret, of shame, when you remove these emotions from being the lead actor at center stage, and you allow them to simply be a co-actor or a supporting actor, they begin to support you in your lead role. They begin to support you in your own journey, your own hero's journey. For those of you not aware of the hero's journey, we are all living as a hero in our own life, and we're all on this journey. But the hero's journey is you're introduced to the hero of the movie, all right, and you're going through life. You're going through your movie, and you're introduced into some sort of a obstacle arises in your life. For a lot of us, especially people watching this, mental health is the obstacle. It is the catalyst that at that point we become a hero in our own story, in our journey, by doing one of two things. We can either stay on the course and not change and not take action to resolve and overcome the obstacle, thus failing at that moment, we never fail. We just have to look at it as present moment. But if we don't overcome that specific obstacle, that sadness we're feeling, that depression at that moment, then we just repeat it again, over and over again, until we actually overcome the obstacle and become the hero of our own play, of our own movie. And that's basically how the hero's journey works. We're all going through a hero's journey. So let's learn how to attach the positive, loving, happy emotions to help our hero progress on in the story, to help you overcome those obstacles. It doesn't happen overnight. That's why people go to therapy for years upon years, but they're not teaching us how to address and rewrite the fundamental underlying problem, that the emotions we attach to the memories that we have no control over. They're not teaching us how to overcome those. They're teaching us how to cope with them. They're teaching us how to put a Band-Aid on these experiences, on these memories, and not how to reprogram them into the beauty that they really were, the beauty of the chaos. Embrace the beauty, embrace the chaos. I don't care what terrible things have happened to you in this world. Some unspeakable things happen to people all the time. But at the end of the day, if they look at those as in a victim mentality and they attach negative emotions to those, they will become stuck in that moment, and they will never be able to free themselves from that moment. We each have to reassociate those feelings of love, of happiness, of joy. We have to have compassion on ourselves. We have to forgive ourselves for believing the illusion that we're all living in. You are the hero of your own story, and you will choose when the time is to step up and overcome that obstacle. And it can be done by everyone. When you see the beauty behind the chaos, when you see it from a 20,000 foot view, looking down upon yourself and understanding why that happened to you and the person it is creating you to be. So let's see what else we got here. We're getting to the last few minutes of the hour here, so I want to make sure I get everybody in that's commented. Let's see. Another one from Robert here said, now I wouldn't thank you for anxiety, and was surprised at first to realize that the anxiety attacks I was regularly experiencing, many have been delivered unto me after I was forced on short-term leave. It was noted that the attacks did stop, and that made them angry. So anxiety is really just, Robert, anxiety is the realization and allowing of these emotions to come to a head. And those emotions are creating that biochemical reaction in our bodies. That biochemical reaction causes a feeling of anxiety, of uneasiness, of what if. That's the biggest, worst question we can all have, is the idea and the question of what if. What if this happens? What if that happens? Whatever you think is going to happen, in all likelihood, will happen, because our subconscious mind is creating that. So instead of thinking, what if, focus on the here and the now. What am I creating now? What am I experiencing now? What am I living in? What state am I living in right now? All the what ifs are simply made up stories within our minds. The future doesn't exist. There is no future. There's only right now. And the current state you're choosing to live in is all there is. When we get anxious, when we have anxiety, we're literally living in the future. We're living in the what if this happens mindset. There's a difference too, I should say, between being prepared, having thought things through, Now, situational awareness, these are some of the most important things we can do to ensure success in our lives. We have to think through and envision what could happen, the what ifs. But for me, I'll give you guys a tip on what I do. Whenever I have a negative thought of the future come into my mind, I acknowledge it, that it's there. I acknowledge that I just created that thought. It appeared in my mind. I created it. And thoughts have power. Thoughts create reality. So I acknowledge that I just had that terrible thought. But what I do with it is what's important. I can either allow it to go into my subconscious mind to possibly create that reality in the future, or I can tell myself, and this is based on quantum physics and scientifically feasible. We live in multiple realities. There's an infinite number of realities. Any outcome is possible. So if you think of something negative, if you think of a horrible, terrifying moment in the future, be aware that you just thought of that and tell yourself, not in this reality. A version of you will unfortunately experience that reality, but you don't have to be the one that experiences it. This version, this present moment of you, it's okay. You are creating it any which way you want. So if something negative comes in, something terrible comes in, acknowledge it, realize, ooh, that is horrible. I don't want that outcome for me. I don't want that to be my future. Now, have compassion and forgiveness for a different version of you that's existing simultaneously in the infinite possibilities, and understand that some version of you will sadly experience that outcome, will sadly experience that version of reality. And what's powerful in it all is when you forgive yourself and have compassion for yourself, because you're learning that version of reality, that terrible experience that another version, another aspect of you has to experience. Know that you are gaining that knowledge, you are gaining that experience, you are gaining everything that happens to that version of you. You're gaining it into your total collective as a spirit, but you don't have to experience it personally. You can allow it to move on. You can allow that negative thought to exist elsewhere and embrace it out of love. Be thankful. Be grateful that you have the power to control your mind and your reality. Be thankful and grateful that another version of you has chosen to experience that reality. You don't have to do it. Be thankful and grateful for that, and move forward knowing that your reality is one of your choosing, that your life is happening to you, for you. If that makes sense, that gets a lot deeper into what I teach about and work with people on as far as quantum physics and multiple realities. Not so much for this show, but that is an aspect of how this all works, how our mind works, how our reality works, and the stories we tell. Let's see here. What else we got as we're wrapping up the show? Got a bunch of stuff from Robert. Thanks, Robert, so much for so many comments here. I don't have time to show all of them. I'll have to read through and see what you've said and comment on it and respond, because you took the time to put so many comments out here. I love it, brother. Thank you so much, Robert. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you tune in next time in a couple weeks, 2 weeks from today. This show is every other week, so thank you there, Adam, for the kind words. Let's see. Anybody else? Nope. It looks like it. So, guys, we're at the top of the hour here. This has been such a fast moving show. I've enjoyed so much being able to connect with you today. I love this platform and opportunity to really dive deep into mental health and different aspects of our reality. What's creating it? What are we thinking? Why do we think this way? Why do we allow things to affect us? There's just so much that can be talked about here, and I'm just grateful for this opportunity. So thank you, Adam. Thank you to the Mental Health Warriors, the network, for allowing me to have a show. I'll see you guys in a couple weeks. In the meantime, feel free to check out my YouTube channel, the Reality Practice Network. If you're looking to find somebody to work with, if you think I'd be a good fit for you on your journey here, I am a trauma reprogramming specialist. That's what I do. So if you're looking to remove one, two, a lot of traumas, if you're looking to discover what trauma actually has occurred to you and how you can rewrite that story, then reach out to me. My website is www.myrealitypractice.com. Got a lot of free resources and tools on there for you. But if you want to go deeper, if you want to learn a little bit more about what I do and how I work with people, please reach out to me. I'd love to chat and try and help you out here. So everybody that tuned in, thank you so much. And until next time, stay blessed. And remember to always ask yourself, what reality are you choosing to create today? Bye now.